Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak. I'm Victoria Rubadiri. Still with me in studio, Edwin Sifuna, ODM Secretary General. Also, Jane Muthiga, Organizing Secretary for the Agano Party, and Honorable Caleb Kositan, MP for Soy constituency. So before we move on to the cost of living issue, quickly, I'll have you respond to some of the comments made by Edwin Sifuna, Honorable Kositan, and then we'll move on to the cost of living.
Thank you, Vicky. I think we need to be honest when we are addressing issues, and let us not take Kenyans to be fools or people who don't keep records. When Edwin speaks about the Eurobond money and all, yes, they claimed Eurobond money was lost. There was an investigation, and I think the ruling was that there was no money lost. But that is a matter that can carry on for further discussion. But since the time of the handshake, do they want William Ruto to account for BBI? Do they want William Ruto to account for the illegal sale of the ports to three individuals within ODM and Jubilee? Do they want William Ruto to take credit or account for the KEMSA scandal? Do they want William Ruto to say, yes, we were in Jubilee and state capture came in and I was part of it? Of course not, because all these things happened because of the handshake. All these things happened, and the biggest, the day the rain started beating Kenya is the day the opposition embraced government. When we lost it, we didn't have an opposition in parliament anymore. When we went into parliament, the ODM side was more government than the Jubilee side. I remember when we were voting about capping the ceiling of borrowing, we opposed it. But they mobilized. You would have seen the ODM guys saying, no, we must pass things. The president has said, we must pass the debt ceiling. And right now, they want to come and claim, oh, it was even William Ruto was part of it. They made their bed. They kicked William Ruto out. President Uhuru Kenyatta is on record saying, I have found a good advisor. My advisor now, and we consult daily, is Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. So basically, they should carry their cross. They should carry the blame from the handshake period. They will account for it. Prior to the handshake, we shall claim we were in Jubilee, we were in government, and we know what we did. We know what we will take credit for. We will not carry anybody's cross. That one is a fact. And I think it's not lost on Kenyans. Everybody knows. The president himself told the deputy president, I want to do things differently. This is my legacy time, so you step aside. Let me. And being the obedient running mate and deputy president he went and did other things. And we are now in a stage whereby we are in a competition between Raila Odinga and William Ruto.
Jane, from where you sit, because you sit in literally the middle of these two camps, yes, literally and figuratively, this morning. Yeah. But where do you see the woes that are hitting Kenyans now stemming from? Actually, is it the handshake politics, yeah, or is it the Jubilee administration as a whole?
Actually, it's both of them, because both of them, Azimio and the UDA team, it's actually both of them, because when you listen to both of them, they're accusing each other of things that they did not do, and all of that. And Kenyans are seeing all this. And what we are telling Kenyans is that at this particular time, these guys, they are full of baggage of issues of corruption, baggage of non-performance, and we are actually in this state of life because of their non-performance. 50 years down the line, and the woman in Kenya is still culling water. You're still having, water, mkokoteni on Moi Avenue, actually. Guys, step out and allow new prayers of Agano to take over. What I want to tell them is that they're all, they're all on State House Road, trying to enter. We are naingia from gate A, mwingine ataka kuingia from gate B. Guys, you have so much baggage. Clear State House Road. We want to get a clean road, and Agano is ready to enter. So your baggage, your corruption issues, your debate, did this perform, did this not perform? Kenyans are tired of all that, and we want a new broom.
Unfortunately, Jen, that's not how it works. We could actually step back and you will still lose. And I will give you the example of what happened in 2017 in the repeat elections. There were people who were just talking the way that you're talking, calling themselves the fresh of breath air. We, of course, pulled back from the repeat election. We still beat those people, even though we were not on the ballot.
Now, so, this time around, Kenyans have learned.
The way Kenyans make decisions is that they need to know who you are and what you're about. For a very long period of time, you need to be a credible person. People need to understand what you are, what your policies are, for them to be able to give you this elective position. So it is not us stepping back. It is for you to be able to make the case. Now, number two, just one thing before we move on. Caleb Kositany is in the parliament right now. He should be the person who understands best the system of governance that we have. That in fact, in a presidential system that we have, there is no opposition. ODM is not an opposition party. The responsibility under our constitution of keeping the executive in check is placed on parliament as an entity. And in the first term, there was what they call the tyranny of numbers. They were very, very strong, and they didn't use that strength to do any good. They were using the strength of tyranny of numbers to do things like passing the security laws amendments that were clawing back on our freedoms, that brought back things as serious as detention without trial. This is Caleb Kositany at the height of his power. That is what he did. They could have used that tyranny, Vicky, to bring down the cost of living, to eliminate all these unnecessary taxes. They could have passed any law that they wanted at that particular moment in time. Despite of all our opposition, they only went for the negative because that is who they are. You know, so when we speak, and you know, you can't bring up BBI and the others, and you are lying on national TV to say that the Auditor General said, oh, there was no money that was stolen in Eurobond. The report of the Auditor General, which was brought to Parliament where you sit, Caleb, was very clear that he could not show a single project where the money went to. So please, don't lie to Kenyans here. And all we want, Vicky, is that to have an election where credible people are elected. We want good people to be elected to office. And credibility is not something you gain in a day. It is examination of your entire life. What have you been doing? When Kenyans were fighting for this second liberation, to have the freedom to be able to sit on a news show like this and to just have a conversation, what were you doing in the 90s? Were you a DO somewhere rounding up people in Chang'an dens and handing them over to the Kanu state for them to be detained without trial? That is who you are. Were you running a ragtag mafia of young people calling themselves YK92, dishing out money, subverting the will of Kenyans? That is who you were. You know, you're not going to change who you are. And all these promises that people are making, the promise is as good as the person making the promise. Who is making the promise is more critical than the promise itself. Indeed. If you have a history of lying to Kenyans, if you have a history of broken promises, you are not one person that, a person that should be listened to even in the first instance.
So let's talk about some of those promises that have been made so far. All four presidential candidates have released their manifestos. Top of mind, however, for Kenyans right now is the cost of living. There was a survey done by the Standard newspaper, page 7, that said 51% of respondents cited high cost of living as the area they feel the next president should prioritize. So that is not a secret for anyone in this country, and we know why. So let me begin with you, Jane, in terms of yesterday, you released the 12 points and you alluded to a few of them, but directly speaking to the cost of living and relieving some of that pain and burden of Kenyans, what does your candidate seek to do?
Okay, one of the things that our candidates under Agano government seeks to do is actually, immediately we get into office, we are going to remove taxes on unga and basic things. Right. You see, like unga and cooking oil and the like, these are things that are very, very crucial. And, you know, we saw the CS for agriculture talking about importing maize. The same case will be repeated. People, we don't know, the companies that are going to be allowed to do, is the same thing repeating so that they can fuel their campaigns. But at our government are looking at, why can't the government actually remove tax from unga, and that will bring it down immediately. So, you know, workable solutions that are able to give us that. Because if they relieve tax from the people who are importing, it's actually giving these people a very good playground for them to import. And who are these? Why wouldn't you allow that woman in Nyamakema to go to Tanzania, to go wherever, and bring maize? but you're giving it to just a few people who are going to make kills out of the whole exercise. So if they're genuine, let them remove tax on unga and let the cost of unga immediately go down. We are promising that that is what we will do. Number two, we are also promising Kenyans that one of the reasons why cost of living is so high is because maybe in a family, it is just one person who is working. One person is working and, so many people are dependent on him because the youth that we have are not working. Most of the women are just in the house and all that. So if we are able to create more jobs, as a matter of immediate, we will be able to do that. And what our president said yesterday is that devolution, we're not just going to devolve 35% of the of money, you're going to devolve 40%. And then out of the 40, every ward will get as a must 50 million from that allocation of the county. The position as it is right now, the money goes to the county and it is distributed to all, even really wasteful allocations. So we are saying, before you even divide within the county other things, can you take that 50 million to a ward and let it be decided by the right level, or, at the village level, by people, what they want to do with that money at their own level. And these are things that we hope that they'll be able to relieve, they'll be able to relieve immediately. Yeah. The other thing we also said is that as soon as we get money which is tanched outside, that money, we are also, our president has started to write letters to countries that people have really sent money use of corruption, these guys who are sitting beside me. Some of their colleagues and friends and what have you. Those are in your parties that you're presenting to Kenyans as the leaders and all that. That money, if you're able to bring it back as soon as we can, our presidential candidate is actually writing to countries that money is tanched. And what we want is that once that money comes, we would be able to pay part of our loans. Part of these disturbing loans, we can pay that with that money. Part of that money, we can be able to finance issues. Look, for example, if all of us had water at home, Nairobians, we are all with mkokoteni, iko wapi, we are, your house, a part of your house is just water storage. If you're able to provide water to every Kenyan today, life would be different. My mom is still asking, back in Moiga, I wish I could get water for farming. If she would do that, her grandchildren would be able to farm in our land and all that and make a difference. So let me bring in Honorable Kositany, because, as of now, a lot of the reasons that are being given for the high prices are the COVID-19 pandemic, the Ukraine-Russia conflict, the value of the shilling against the dollar, external factors. But at the end of the day, what most Kenyans care about is what's affecting my pocket on Kenyan soil. Do I have enough money for basic commodities? You see a splashed headline on the Standard saying why Kenya is teetering on the brink of a full-blown economic crisis. These are serious issues affecting the everyday life of Kenyans. What is Kenya Kwanza promising to do? And we know they are targeting mostly the bottom of the pyramid, who are hardest hit during a time like this. Yeah. What are the key promises when it comes to the economic front?
Thanks. I think it's a pity that we are at this stage and we want to blame external forces when we have the local solutions that we can have. And it just requires the goodwill of the leadership of the country so that we can actually get serious with what we are proposing as Kenya Kwanza. And we believe that William Ruto, a man who has been tried and tested, will lead us in this direction. Number one, we have said that we want to bring back subsidy into the agricultural sector. We want to subsidize on fertilizer. We want to subsidize on all farm inputs, up to including chemicals, and that will enhance productivity. If a farmer without subsidy is managing to produce 10 bags an acre, with subsidy he'll be able to produce up to 20 bags an acre. That will enhance his income, and that will enhance our food security. We want to have bring back GMR, which is the guaranteed minimum return, so that when I go into my farm, I know that irrespective of what happens, should there be a drought, should there be a good bumper harvest, the minimum I will get is this, and I will be able to go back to the farm next year. So that will bring in motivation. We have spoken about value addition. We want the farmer not to only stop benefiting after he has produced the crop. We want him to also to be part of the chain, up to value addition and up to the shelf, up to once the commodity gets to the shelf. We want to cut out the middlemen who will just wait until harvest time. They will come with cash, lots of cash, pick our maize, and go and do value addition and make the super profits. We have also said that we are going to have a fund, 50 billion fund that will help the SMEs in doing their business, a line of credit that will get our people off the expensive Shylock loans and the very expensive Fuliza loans. Those are the things that we want to do right now. And once we do this, we will free a lot of foreign exchange. Right now, we're spending, I think, about 380 billion to import food. We're importing rice. Yet we have a Hero rice scheme, we have a Mwea, which once if we pay attention to it, we can produce the rice that we require here, and we will not need to use about 90 billion to import rice. So those are the things that we're talking about in Kenya Kwanza, and there are things that are deliverable. There are things that are doable. And when we speak about having lost track, this was part of the Big Four agenda. Food security, the housing plan that we had. Part of what is the cost, spiraling the cost of living, Vicky, is rent, house rent. People are paying, the landlords, of course, they're in business. They want to make their super profits. They're charging rent the way they feel they should charge, which is okay. We said we need to build this low-cost housing. Have a Kenyan who is earning maybe 30,000, 40,000 shillings, pay a rent of 10,000, even if he's paying it for 20 years. Eventually, he will own that house. At least we are going to create house owners. And the government will put in a plan, and we have the plan. And that is a plan that the Big Four plan that was derailed. And we can never, I mean, my good friend here, Edwin and ODM, can never run away from it. It was derailed. Their priorities changed. When William Ruto was kicked out, now nobody could drive the Big Four agenda. The priorities changed. How do we fix this, William Ruto? Let us change the constitution. And we have gone. In every rally you have seen our principals, Deputy President William Ruto, Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, Alfred Mutua, Kingi, and Mutua, all of them. We asked the people, because we want to do what the people feel touches them. Do you want us to change the constitution first or the economy? And they say the economy. Do you want trickle down or you want bottom up? And they resoundingly say bottom up. And we are so happy that we said that at one of the functions, the Deputy President says we have to change the conversation in Kenya. It's no longer going to be about Tibim, Tialala, Kitandawili. Let us talk economics. We are so happy that now even in ODM we no longer hear Tibim, Tialala, and Kitandawili. It's all gone. We are all discussing the economy. So we have managed to change the conversation, and we're happy about it.
I don't know why you say you don't hear it. I can say it now. ODM RIA. I can say it. We still say it. Yesterday I was in a rally and I started with the Tibim to charge the people up. But Vicky, we cannot run away. Of course, when you talk about the cost of living, we have internal factors and then we have external factors. Right. You cannot run away from what we live in a global village now. Somebody sneezes in a village in Wuhan and we all go under lockdown. When we were at the height of the COVID lockdown, do you know that diesel, which is one of the biggest pain points right now, diesel was retailing at Kenya shilling 70 because it is a commodity that is also driven by global supply and demand. So something like there were problems that were existing internally, but of course the pandemic came and exacerbated the situation, and of course even the question of the war in Europe. You know, we used to feel like Europe was a very far off place, but these days, because we are all interconnected, that if there is a war between Ukraine and Russia, suddenly the importation of palm oil that is used to make cooking oil in Kenya is affected. So we cannot run away from that. I am very, very embarrassed sometimes when I come to this show with Caleb. You know, I know Soy constituency is one of the bread baskets in the North Rift. And we would expect that the member of parliament for Soy would understand the pain points for the farmers in the Rift. We are talking of bringing down the cost of living. We start with the cost of food. You have to address the cost of production of food. Number one, it is the cost of the inputs, the fertilizer, even the machinery that is used in terms of the farm equipment. You must stop the importation of food from outside. When our farmers' maize is rotting, the farmers in Soy have to get priority, which is why in our manifesto we have proposed that in fact we will not import any maize until we exhaust all the maize that has been produced by the good people of Soy constituency. Then we must look at addressing overdependence on rain-fed agriculture, and try and see if we can use the fertile arable land to put under irrigation like the president had envisaged under, the Galana Kulalu plan. But the biggest monster in agriculture, which our friends in UDA will never accept to even discuss, is the corruption cartels in agriculture. If it were not for corruption, and the reason why Galana failed was not because of a handshake, the Israeli contractor who was given the job of doing the farm down there specifically told us that in all his entire life, he had never seen corruption to the level that he saw in Galana Kulalu. It was the reason why the dams that were supposed to be built in Rift Valley to help us to irrigate farms and to provide other avenues of food production, including fishing, they were never built. The Aurora and Kimore dams were collapsed because of corruption. It is the reason why fertilizer is expensive. And if you go, forget this, I don't know what they call these meetings of heirs. We have sat with actual farmers in the Rift, and they saw and they heard from the farmers themselves. The farmers properly diagnosed the problem to be a problem of corruption and cartels. And this is cartels that are driven by people in very high places in government. So if you ask Mheshimiwa Kositany, I am sure he farms maize himself.
I do.
You do. And his neighbors, you will find that it is more likely for National Cereals and Produce Board to buy Kositany's maize because he's a member of parliament than for his neighbors, you know? And they are the ones complaining, because if you don't have friends in high places, you will have your truck with maize in the line on the queue at NCPB for over a week, and yet these guys will bring in maize from Uganda and they'll jump the queue. The farmers themselves told us. And Vicky, the good thing is that you guys in the media followed us during our meetings with the people, and you heard the farmers themselves say, and they told us, Raila Odinga, when you become president, please fagia NCPB. Fagia NCPB. If there is anybody sitting somewhere thinking that William Ruto will make any changes to the NCPB cartels that are there, you are wasting your time. He will not change anything, because that is who he is.
You know, these guys, all they are talking about is development. But you know, they have had an opportunity. But what has happened is that the word development is just a word to bring to save funds from the coffer. You need to prepare budgets.
We have never been in government.
But once it is done, that process changed to procurement, to the procurement agenda. So we no longer think about development. We start looking at what is available on procurement agenda and how much money can we make out of it. So these guys, please clear State House Road. Get out of it so that the people with the clean broom, can be able to come and clean State House and clean this country. My dear, agriculture issues, I think from a Ghana perspective, would want to think about no food leaves a county unless there is value addition. If it is the county of Nyandarua, for example, there is no food that leaves that county without value addition. That way you are already providing employment. Because if the government funds those cottage industry that are related to agricultural strength of a given county, then it means that the production in agriculture creates employment at the county level, and from that perspective, they are able to export things to other county. I would say export to other county. Because I would want to see a partnership between Nyandarua County and northern Kenya, whereby they can work together. We produce vegetables for you, you produce meat for us, and together we can be able to make it. But that value addition has to come in so that meat coming all the way from northern Kenya to a county in any central part of Kenya may get to us, you know, in good status. Then business people, we have good news from Agano. Our business people actually are heavily taxed. People are closing businesses all over. And I want to comment on that based also on education. You see, governments never think about local entrepreneur. The local entrepreneur, nobody thinks about them. You look at us or you look at that particular person, just like somebody who is supposed to give money to the government, but we never think about a neighboring environment for business to thrive. And these are the people who are providing bigger parts of employment to our young people and even to the society. The business people, we are looking at the business people as partners in this country. If I look at, for example, education, the CS of education, everything he'll say, remove your child from, if a child is sent home because of school fees, bring them to public schools. But what have we done as a government to support even private schools who have been there, supported education through and through, invested in this particular space? But by the end of the day, they are closing because they have no supportive government. So we want to have a situation whereby Agano government supports business people by coming up with good policies and even giving funding to businesses that can be able to offer good employment. Kenyans have ideas. We have educated our children. We have provided, you know, they're entrepreneurs. But what happens is that by the time you open, you're shut down because a lot of revenue, pay this, county, pay this. You can't move on. Then lacking loans, lacking facilitation, we'd want to stop what the government is doing, and just borrowing from banks and bring it back to the people. Keeping
on this theme of blame game economics, there's a comment here directed at you, Honorable Kositan, and Frank, who says, who stopped you from implementing the Big Four agenda if not yourselves? You rebelled from your regime, started a campaign against your party leader. You're all to blame for the mess. You can't run away from it. So again, you know, you can't cherry pick. You see, Victoria, one thing that we need to know is there's only one CEO in this country, and that is President Uhuru Kenyatta. What he decides is what is put on the table. When he decided that he was kicking William Ruto out and the Big Four should take a break and BBI should be given the front page, then it was it. It was not for William Ruto to decide. So I mean, let's stop trying to. People should. They made their bed. They should lie on it. The most sad thing about the whole mess that we are in now is when you hear I had the ODM team and NARC Kenya leader saying, "Oh, I've seen an advert on TV. These are the reformists of yesterday." You know, no. But it is sad that the so-called reformists of yesterday are now beneficiaries of step capture. They will not say anything. They will not say anything against government. They are using government resources to campaign. They are driving in brand new vehicles with number plates that are there, but they're actually GK vehicles. They are being funded by government. Despite the fact that the deputy president is still
part and parcel of state capture. The deputy president is the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. He was elected.
Yeah, but he's not allowed to campaign.
He was elected. He's not using any public resources. The deputy president's office is no longer receiving a single coin. His funding, fueling of his vehicles, even repairs is being done by well-wishers. We are contributing as friends and Kenyans of goodwill. And you will be shocked the amount of Kenyans who have goodwill, and I believe that the deputy president is the one that will get us back on track. So this issue of telling us that they are reformists of yesterday is actually sad. That right now they will keep quiet when they see the politicization of the KRA.
Actually, it is.
They will keep quiet when they see the DCI acting because of a phone call from somebody, deal with so-and-so, slow down, Governor so-and-so has refused to support us, please look for any case and have him behind bars. And it is actually very sad. We need to be honest with ourselves.
It is actually a fact.
And everybody should know. And I say it, and let me clarify, because I've seen on your tweet, somebody has you've written that I said that William Ruto should carry the cross of the Jubilee government up to the handshake period. After the handshake period, it is President Uhuru Kenyatta and his brother Raila Odinga.
For as long as we are still paying his salary as a deputy president, he will carry the rights and responsibilities of that office. Number two, it is actually a fact, Vicky, that the Azimio la Umoja team largely is people who were pro-reform in the second liberation of the country. Caleb, your history is already written. The ink is dry. You cannot change who you are. In 1992, I was a student in a primary school. That is where I was. Yeah.
But not who you are now.
Yeah, if you were, but first you accept who you are. And you know, Vicky, they say...
you should give people room to change, though.
Yes.
And we've seen the
but unfortunately, they don't change.
Camps.
Unfortunately, they don't change. You see, like, one of the most interesting things that came out from this conversation about, slapping the president is the intransigence of William Ruto. There was a book by the former president of Tanzania, just revisiting the discussion around bringing about peace in 2008. And, one of the people who was singled out as holding very, very, radical positions and not allowing the peace process to move at all was William Ruto. And in the intervening period, he has not changed a bit, because from his own words, when he was speaking at that rally, he said he is one person who is unlikely to cede any ground. And that is why he went to the point of almost slapping the president, got him out of State House, took him someplace to eat some meat and told him, "Huwezi wachilia hii kiti." He hasn't changed. That's why we are saying that the history of someone, the socialization, how you are brought up, the influences around you, they are what determine your character. And when I'm saying that it is important for us to, we don't want vindictive people in power. What vindictive people can do with power is very dangerous. He has promised to jail the president simply because the president has refused to endorse him for his candidature. Moi, when you talk to people like Raila Odinga, people who actually were detained without trial by Moi himself, when Moi left office, I don't think you had Raila Odinga saying, let's go after this old man and jail him, because we don't want vindictive people, which is why yesterday I was saying, some of us, we fear the day. We are absolutely afraid of the day that William Ruto will assume any semblance of power in this country. We will be going into exile ourselves, because we know if he is willing to slap a president, what will he do to Edwin Sifuna?
So you just feel he'll be on a vindictive...
Yeah, he has told us himself. He has told us himself he'll finish us. He will finish all of you. He will come here to Citizen. He has said Citizen is pro-opposition. He will shut down
we
this...
We need to give him a benefit of the doubt. Honourable Kositany, I'll come to you, Jean.
Yes.
I think Sifuna should actually be very honest about William Ruto's resolve when he's up to go and get something done. He wants it done and done properly. The moment when he was talking about William Ruto in 2007, he just doesn't want to say that William Ruto was fighting for Raila Odinga.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that time, William Ruto was a star. He was a good man. Where? When he was fighting for Raila Odinga in 2007.
Yes.
I think even William Ruto has given more support to Raila Odinga than you, Edwin Sifuna.
Yeah, because he was here earlier.
Well, proof that people change.
Yeah. The question was, is he a changed man?
At the moment when we are talking about this slap, and I remember I saw yesterday on Twitter, I think Kenyans are very hilarious people, and somebody said, I want a friend like William Ruto, who can slap me to wake up and get me back on track. And I would also want a friend like that, who will not just let me say, okay, I have quit, and tell me, okay, fine, you quit.
Except this is your boss. So, this is not your friend.
So
your
I
boss.
think even when you listen to the clip, what William Ruto was saying is, it was actually on a light note. It's not that he would have actually slapped the president. It's not possible. But because these people have no other agenda, anything they can hang on, anything that they can create some negativity about, they will run with it. But we must give William Ruto credit. We must say that, in fact, all these other people who are calling themselves reformists, the greatest reformer in Kenya is William Ruto. If William Ruto had allowed President Uhuru Kenyatta to squash him and put him in the tin and lock the lid, then Kenya would have been headed in so many different directions.
Okay,
we would be in a deeper hole than we are in. We want to give him credit for having stood firm. He is actually the reformist that Kenya required.
Jane, your response, and we'll come to you, Sifuna.
Yes. I want to actually address the issue of the campaign these guys are having. When you look at the rallies that these people are having, you wonder, gosh, how much money are you people spending? And this money that you are spending actually is the baggage that you are... you have as you sleep on the State House road. The baggage is because the people who are sponsoring these people are actually people you'll when you get to State House or when you get to power, they'll be telling you, okay, what are our promises? We have given you billions or hundreds or tens of hundreds of money. Their first agenda is to address into issues of procurement. So you'll not be dealing with the common Kenyan, the UNGA issues, but you start looking at the money that you have spent with your partners, sponsors, what. How are you going to pay it back? The money that you have spent for yourself, the same story comes back. And you people are not going to address our needs. You're going to address, how do I bring back? How do I recoup back from the money that I've spent on my campaign? And we'll be having the same story of procurement rather than development agenda. So guys, can you clear out of State House Road? We want to uproot you with all the roots and tell you, clear that road. The baggage is too much for us. We cannot allow you to get to State House.
So you're saying different political outfits, but same agenda.
I don't know how Agano are fundraising. I wish my phone...
We are fundraising Kenyan supporters.
Just a minute.
But please, that baggage, we can't allow it to go.
Let me tell you, not everybody is financed by those procurement things that you're talking about. I would show you after this show, just a WhatsApp group of my family members, people contributing money for purposes of my campaign. We have friendships. These are things that are built over a period of time. When you are a new player in the game like you, it is not as easy to raise funds because people don't know who you are. People want to invest in people who have an actual potential to win the election. It is not just procurement driven. I have friends who have decided they are going to adopt one billboard for Sifuna and they pay for it. And these are friends I have known from the time when I was in high school. My high school people have contributed T-shirts for me. That is how we are fundraising. So when you see those big rallies, it is also because of the support that has been built over a period of time. You are not going to get the same crowd when you have, say, William Ruto going to campaign or Raila Odinga going to campaign. And your candidate, it requires time for you to build that support.
Okay. Quick question here on Twitter. Yes. Musoma asking you, if reggae is on halftime, and if so, how will that be achieved when the person who stopped reggae is now Raila's running mate, Martha Karua? He says, I'm in Azimio, but I don't understand how we will have another BBI with Karua on the
So, one of the things that we admit having failed in doing in the BBI conversation is allowing the opponents of the process to run off with the propaganda, because the ideas that were proposed in the BBI, even Agano themselves are talking about increasing allocation of resources. I think they gave up a 40% to county governments. BBI was a conversation about taking the document that we have had for the past 12 years or so and seeing where we can make it better. When she's talking about water, it is the BBI that had proposed a specific fund for the Article 43 rights, including water, because it is one thing for a document to declare that you have a right to water, but if there is no financing to back it up, you're not going to have the water.
The reason why we don't have financing...
Just a minute, I'm just addressing the BBI conversation. It was a conversation, Vicky, about bettering our lot. So if you are talking about increasing resources to counties, that is what the BBI was. And when you read their document, the UDA manifesto, they are talking about full transfer of the functions and the resources that were, devolved, but somehow their Jubilee government, which had the first opportunity of fully implementing the Constitution, refused to hand over. That is what the BBI was, Caleb. You can just, it doesn't matter what label you put on something.
Well, they call it mutilating the Constitution.
They call it mutilating the Constitution. They are the ones who are first to propose a cabinet secretary who is a prime minister in their own arrangement. And they gave it... No. Just a minute. I wish I had your document. It says very clearly that you will amend the law. In fact, it says within the first 14 days.
Not the Constitution,
no,
the law.
What is the law, Caleb? What is the law of the land? It's a constitution. It's a constitution and the legislation that you pass. So let us not be dishonest, Caleb. You like the ideas that were proposed in the BBI. And the most interesting thing is, when you demonize the proposals and ideas of other people, the question still remains on the table. Because when the question was asked, for instance, Vicky, how do we resolve the question of the two-thirds gender rule in Parliament? We as ODM came up with certain proposals, and these guys kept quiet until the day we reached Bomas, only to come and trash other people's ideas. So while you trash my idea, my proposal on resolving a problem, so you've trashed it. So what is your idea? What is your proposal? Because the question remains on the table, So they will pretend that, oh, they were against this process, but you can see they are saying within 14 days, they say, in the rallies, they say tutaanza na uchumi, but there is no uchumi that you can do in 14 days. But in 14 days, they will have brought the position of Prime Minister. That is what their document
without changing the constitution.
How, Caleb?
You know,
no, let's let Honorable Kostan respond and then.
Okay.
You see, what we are saying, and that is why we are different from them, is they wanted to spend billions of shillings. And we were told by IBC that for for us to have BBI, we need 14 billion. We are saying that some of the changes that we require, one, full implementation of the 2010 Constitution. That one we have committed to. And that will cure some of the issues that they were proposing within BBI. For the issue of having a prime minister or a chief minister, we already even have one now, and we didn't have to change the constitution. What we are saying is we are trying to make savings where we don't need to spend money and we can do A, B, C, D. Let's have it done without spending money, without taking Kenyans through a rigorous process of changing the constitution. And if need be, then we can do it much later, because right now, the most urgent thing is the economy. Yeah. The most urgent thing is how many Kenyans are able to afford a meal or even 2 meals for their families, let alone for themselves. So that is what is most important now, as opposed to them that they spend a lot of government resources running all over the country. And a lot of people's toes were stepped on, because if you are not supporting BBI and the truck was headed your way, you are run over. Either you are thrown into court, you are given tax demands and all sorts of things. We had all of our friends who voted for this government, Jubilee, kicked out of parliamentary committees to accommodate the opposition. And when he says that there is no opposition, there is a leader of opposition in parliament with clear roles. With clear roles in parliament. The one thing that is actually coming out very obvious is ODM has felt the baggage of having sneaked in through the back door into government. And they want to try and run away and say, oh, we are not part of this government. They are part and parcel of government from the moment William Ruto was kicked out and Raila Odinga came in.
Jane,
yes. Actually, I would say that the priorities that we put forward is what is very important. Because we've seen governments that really don't put priorities that matter to people. Issues that really matter to people are not a priority. We go to priorities of issues. That's why I said development, which is procurement. And that's why I'm saying these people will not be able to address our priorities, because their priorities number one will be to, first of all, address the issues of campaign, the money they have used and all that. And the question of water issues are very paramount. And at Agano, these are the things we want to address. You look at education, because it's a very important thing. Both governments may offer free education. But when you look at free education, the free education we have does not actually address the needy child. Because 70% of our children are in the slum area. And slum area, we don't have schools. The public schools that are there are very few that are not able to take care of all the children. So still a very big number of our children are not in education. And we are saying every child has a right to free and fair education, free and quality education. If the government is not funding those schools that are actually having those children, it means these children are still not catered for. So at Agano, we want to provide free primary and secondary education and ensure every child, there's no private child, there's no public child. Okay. All these children are Kenyan children. And then, Vicky, the issue of entry to university. We still have a lot of children, especially from slums, that are not able to access higher education. We have to
wrap up really quickly as time is running out. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to get just your final submissions on this as we move forward. 34 days to the elections. But before I get your responses, let's take a look at some of the feedback on social media very quickly. It is taking its time, but meanwhile, let's see what some people are saying here on Twitter. Okay, here we go. Abdallah, you're saying, I like the Agano Party manifesto, especially that point of reducing PAYE. Itaokolea wanyonge wengi sana.
Thank you.
Please forgive me. Next one on my Swahili, Bob Otieno. The failure of government shouldn't be blamed on DP, but the head of state, who is a driver. You don't blame a conductor when an accident happens, and your mistake was joining hands with the sitting president. The analogy there. Thank you so much. Bernard saying the panelists are a coin of different sides, or rather different sides of the same coin, perhaps. The ODM guys saved Governor Waiguru during an impeachment motion, something the DP's side criticized. Today, the DP's side defend Waiguru, while ODM calls her corrupt. That's the sorry state of our politics. Engineer Lazaro, what went wrong between President Kenyatta and his DP? No longer our concerns. Now Kenyans want to debate over the cost of living, period. I hope Musalia heard Honorable Kositan confession how they denied him a chance to take over from undecisive Uhuru. And Bob Otieno again. IEBC has done tremendous work to make the upcoming elections credible. Where were these people questioning about their credibility since the Kriegler handed his report? Thank you for your feedback. All right, and that's the final one. But let me get your final submissions. You've seen comments there from Kenyans, some lauding the manifestos that have been launched this past week. And of course, concerns on the cost of living and preparedness of IEBC. But let's begin with Honorable Kositan on your final comments this morning.
Well, I think my final comment is to tell Kenyans that we have no issue with President Uhuru Kenyatta supporting his preferred candidate. It's very okay. It's his democratic right. He said, kumi yangu, kumi ya William Ruto, without being coerced or forced. It was never, the decision to support Uhuru Kenyatta was never based on his support for William Ruto. So we welcome his decision to support Raila Odinga and ODM as opposed to supporting Jubilee or his deputy president. That is most welcome. But what we urge our president is to take it easy. We have spoken to the people. The people are resonating well with his deputy. Let him tone down on his anger and just continue his last 34 days in Kenya and prepare to hand over power to his deputy come 9th of August.
All right, Jane, your final.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I want to say that the issue of pay is one thing that you are very concerned about. It's about reducing the cost of living for Kenyan employees and also the Kenyan employers as well, removing the burden that you know, every other day you have got to do that. We are looking into it and see to it whether we can even make it better than 50%. When you talk about the experience of a candidate, our presidential candidate is very experienced in management, and that's what we need. We need a manager for this nation to go forward. So he's very clean and qualified, and this is the guy that is going to address our needs from day one. Let's vote for Agano.
Thank you.
Mwaure Wahiga is our presidential candidate.
Edwin Sifuna, last word goes to you.
I want to reiterate something that I have said on this show before. This document was prepared on one simple assumption, that Kenyans are actually good people. We have rejected this proposition or this invitation to accept that as a society, we are generally bad people who would take a shortcut if we had to. That in fact, values still matter in this society. And that those good people, Kenyan good people, or the good Kenyan people, would then want to elect good leaders who would then go ahead to put in place good governance that would result in good opportunities for everybody. And then as a society, we provide a safety net for any one person not to fall below a certain floor, which is a social protection that we're talking about. When we address the question of the cost of living, we have to pay high taxes because we have to repay the debts that we have taken as a nation, you know. So Kenyans must be prepared. Even when our friends from Agano promised to cut pay by 50%, they have to tell us where they would plug the deficit. Because what has happened is that the Jubilee government, instead of growing the herd so that you have 3 cows giving you a litre each, they are focused on milking the one cow till it drops dead. Finally, to our friend, the deputy president, please tone down on the anger, the vitriol, the bitterness. Here in Nairobi, we say, ukiachwa, achika. It's that simple. Relationships can come to an end. Even love affairs go wrong. Marriages break. It is not something to be bitter about.
All is fair
in war. Yeah, it is fair. And you just move on. Achika, bwana. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Edwin Sifuna, Honorable Caleb Kositani, and Jane Muthiga for your time, for your insights. Certainly keep that conversation going on social media. #Daybreak. That does it for the show. Of course, much more ahead. In the next hour, we have Willis Raburu with much more on social issues and matters affecting Kenyans. Thank you. I'm Victoria Rubadiri. Have a lovely Tuesday and rest of the week. Bye for now.